if energies and efforts and dollars were pointed at the preschool age, that's when your brain is developing, and it needs so many things to be okay. And so it's better to nurture that child and be a part of their wholeness than to try to fix that brokenness.
Well, Kim, we're so excited to talk with you today. Can you tell us a little bit about your business?
Sure. So a Safe Place Child Enrichment Center. We are a 5-star NACE accredited childcare centers. We have 2 locations serving Southeast Raleigh in North Carolina. We think of it as one location with satellite classrooms, and also we are, in that same sense, one family. We've been around for about 24 years. I started when my middle child, Abram, who has sickle cell, one day I went to pick up my son, and our only mandate to the child care center was to just make sure that he didn't get overheated and had access to water. And I pulled up one day, and all the teachers was in the shade drinking a pop, and my son was dehydrated and hot, and something broke, and I knew I could, 1, come home and take care of my own child, and 2, do it better than anything that I had been exposed to.
The best business stories come from a personal need that you wanted to do better than you could find somewhere else. And that's certainly true of your story. It's incredible. Do you know in total how many children you've cared for over the years?
Ooh, that is, I wish I knew the answer. I don't. I can tell you that it's probably very much in the 1,000, the low end of 1,000 kids. When I think about how many we graduate every year, and then the number of years that we've been in business.
Are there any in particular that are memorable that you would talk about?
Oh, sure. So a family came to me of 3, and when she reached out, she said, my child's been going to the center for 3 months, and every day she still cries. I really need to see if I can make a change and if there's any help for this. And I said, well, give her to me. And, I took her, and she came to me, and I held her on my hip for 2 weeks. She went with me everywhere I went. And then one day she asked to get down. And she got down, and I didn't have to pick her up in that fashion again. And there is a school of hard knocks that say, well, let them cry it out, they'll be okay. But if you can love them, you can nurture them out of that.
You have such an important part of our communities, and the lives that you're changing for our children every day is remarkable. And then there's the financial aspect of running a business and the balance of the noble work that you're doing, and also the financial responsibility that you have as a small business owner. So I'm curious how you define success in that balance.
When I say Southeast Raleigh, that means something here. It was the highest pocket of poverty. No franchise was willing to come to our zip code. And so it was inundated with a lot of family childcare providers and people that, were just taking spaces and doing the best that they could. And even though in the scheme of things, we still are a small center, there was still a need for somebody to come into this community and try to do more than 5 children or 8 children. And so that's one reason why we expanded. Another one was a provider around the corner from me was going out of business. And I knew she had the same dream that I had in the beginning, but because she could not stay in business, she had begun to sell the rugs. The parents was bringing in the milk and food for the children. And I remember picking up a baby and saying, I'm gonna come back and get you. And we were able to start out with a lease and then purchase that building. And that child stayed with me even till he was a school ager.
One of the things I love is that part of what you prioritize is this kind of surrounding the child with intention and the fact that you are worth continuing to invest in. I just applaud you for, leaning in those situations where it would be far easier for you in terms of running the business in the classroom to ignore that or to try and, move a student out of the classroom. But the fact that you're surrounding them with that love and affirmation that they are worth continuing to invest in, I mean, that in and of itself, I'm sure is part of why you're seeing those behaviors shift.
I agree. We also have learned in this process, and even when I didn't have the words to express it, if a class was in chaos or having a hard time, the teacher was struggling managing, I would say, let's go outside. And we found that going outside was a key to a lot of things that were happening in smaller spaces. And I knew we had to figure out a way to make that outside the classroom. And so outside was such a liberating place, we began to flip that script and say, hey, this is the classroom. This is where we need to be. This is the safer space. This is the place that science is already built in. We don't have to put it in a cup. It's all around us. And so everything that we do inside, we can do outside.
Kim, you are a pioneer to the outdoor classroom, way ahead.
Way ahead.
Now it's shifting there.
Well, I'm curious about that because, I mean, the things that you're talking about are actually some of the latest pieces of research that we're finding out about kind of attachment-based neuroscience and what's so important for young kids. But you're like instinctively doing this in both the outdoor classroom as well as the surrounding the child. Were you just led this way or did you do tons of research when you started? What's your background?
Some things happen out of pain. Some things happen out of struggle. I struggled with obesity all of my life. Didn't want to pass that on to my own children and definitely not my neighbor's child. And so I knew how important it was to, at an early age, to get children moving. And I also knew how important it was to provide them with whole food. So about 15 years ago, I made a decision not to open any more cans, that we would not be serving processed foods. And so I went to the farmer's market and I picked the fresh fruits personally every single week for our menu. Just created ways for children to move more. So just really trying to keep it simple, making those shifts to a healthier lifestyle.
That's fantastic, Kim. I mean, you're creating healthy habits and lifestyles at such an early age that will last with them forever. So I'm curious, if others want to get involved, how can other people get involved to help support you and your cause?
So we rely heavily on donations and volunteer efforts. We beat the doors in our community, ask for donations for our gardens. We do grow. We have a production garden, so we do grow part of the food that we serve our children. Our children and our families work in those gardens. We do whatever we have to do to make those ends meet. This is very meaningful work. And I remind my staff that this is God's work. We've been mandated to take care of the little children. Somebody has to be their voice. Somebody has to protect them. And so I didn't get to choose. I was chosen. And I don't get to walk away. And so it's my work. I'm dedicated. And one day somebody's going to say, well done, my child. That's the greatest hope.